incredible personalized gift. The new star name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Call the Star Registry, 800-282-3333, or visit starregistry.com for the hottest gift.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
That's right, and we are broadcasting live from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is actually at 612 South 32nd Street, and you may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481. I'm actually broadcasting from our studio here at 2nd Avenue North and North 10th Street, and I'm delighted to welcome to the program once again Mr. Sam Clovis. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I think that I'm going to have to, I hope this isn't premature, but I'm going to call this. I'm going to say, and I think time will prove me to be 100% correct, I'm going to say that Joe Biden is going to be the worst president the United States has ever seen. We've had some bad ones, but this guy's a disaster already.
Worse than Jimmy Carter.
I would say so. I read in the New York Times. Yes, I read the New York Times and Wall Street Journal, and Pravda, which is a Des Moines Register, and other newspapers, including the Des Moines Register, our own Messenger, of course, Fort Dodge Messenger here in town. But I read in the Times this morning that the Cuban people are rising up against their government. This is not some small uprising. This is throughout the country. The people are fed up. They don't have enough of life's necessities, and they do not have freedom. Now, they're up against the old Revolutionary Guard, and their response is always, nothing, we will allow nothing to harm the revolution. Well, a revolution was 60 years ago. And they still have these problems, especially since the Soviet Union started to experience all their problems. And they experienced all their problems because of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan went to war with them economically, and we won. But of course, for some reason unknown, we elect these weak presidents. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jimmy Carter. What a disaster. But he's like Barack Obama, and he's like Joe Biden in that he lets these countries humiliate us on an international scale. And they get the idea that the United States has nothing to worry about. You know something, Sam? They're right. Bashir Assad, and I mentioned this in the last half hour, Bashir Assad of Syria was waging war against his own people. His own people had risen up against him like
right.
The Cubans are doing now with their government.
Right.
Barack Obama comes to the podium and says, there's a bright red line. I told Bashir Assad not to cross the bright red line. Do not use poison gas on your own people. Well, Assad thought about that for less than 10 seconds and used poison gas on his own people. Did you see 60 Minutes last night? There were horrific pictures. Children, mass slaughter of children and women, and I mean, it was never mind the gas. The Russians and the Syrians bombed hospitals, entire
right.
neighborhoods, entire cities, with impunity. Barack Obama later on said to not be involved in that was one of the smartest decisions he ever made as president, which is staggering when you stop and think about it. How could you
right.
say something so false, such an outrageous lie? And people like Biden and Biden's followers, who are sheep essentially, lapped it up. Oh, good. Barack Obama let 400,000 people die in a horrific way. Now we have the people of Cuba, but they know better. They know better than to trust anything the United States says. And the people of Afghanistan. And I'm really on a roll here, Sam, so I'm going to let you jump in.
You just keep going. I'm out here with the baton leading the band. So, yeah.
Well, you know, and I actually had a liberal friend tell me that heads were not going to roll in Afghanistan. And this is an educated man. Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that this is another more right-wing paranoia. I
No,
believe.
no. Heads will literally roll.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally will roll in Afghanistan. Yes, they will.
And there will be gang rapes of women, and they'll be forced to wear that sack that they were forced to wear for years. And Biden will decide that's a good outcome somehow. The smartest thing he ever did. I just, these people, they're running around saying, "Well, you people still believe in Trump." Well, we look at Trump and we look at you and say, "Yeah, we should have just kept Trump in office."
Oh, there's a lot of buyers remorse.
Buyer's
right
remorse,
now.
I would say. Yeah. And the only thing Biden can do is talk through his teeth and say, systematic racism, like he's going to get out from behind the podium and beat the hell out of systematic racism.
Yeah, but he's not going to do anything. And the other thing is, he's creepy. I don't know if you've noticed that he is really creepy.
He's gotten creepy, certainly.
And you just get the idea that says, one, aside from being elder abuse that we have here, but the other part of it is that on its own, left to his own devices, he is really a creepy guy, and so it just makes your skin crawl. I want to talk about the Cuba thing here just for a moment. The issue that we have, and the protestations going on in Cuba are predictable, and we knew that they would eventually come. And I think that there were many of us that we have talked about this. I remember 30 some years ago talking about this very fact, and I don't want to get into the long and grisly story, but the bottom line was that the think tank where I work, they asked us, what do you think about where we are with the Russians? And I said, with the advent of computers, with the advent of information, with the advent of as these old regimes die, it will be next to impossible to hold the people down. And because the information and all of the other aspects, people will see, we live like this in Cuba. Our family lives like this in Miami. We live like this in Cuba. Our family members live like this in Miami. So what is the difference here other than the 100 miles of water that is between us? And the issue comes down to the fact you cannot hide the depravity, you cannot hide the tyranny, you cannot hide the suppression, you cannot hide the victimization, the mass slaughter. You can't hide that from the people anymore. That is because everybody's got a phone. Eventually they will all have a phone. Eventually they will all have computers. Eventually they will all have televisions. And you cannot hide it. You cannot hide the world from the rest. There are no places left other than perhaps North Korea where you cannot get the information about what freedom and liberty is all about. And I think that that's what you're seeing in Cuba. I'm sure that there are plenty of agitators in the United States that are agitating things in Cuba. And I'd be willing to bet the ranch on that. But at the same time, the Cuban regime is going to have to figure out how to accommodate this, because they cannot come in and suppress. They cannot come back in and suppress the way that it was done in Hungary in 56 or Czechoslovakia in 68. That's not going to happen again. And so you're going to see some evolution here and some adaptation by the government of Cuba to accommodate this change in the feeling of the people.
But the Cubans will do what Assad did. I'm fairly sure of that. Maybe you're not, but an autocrat, a murderous autocrat, will still crush a revolution.
There could be. I think, but you're going to see a difference. Now, let me walk you from Stalin to Khrushchev and then on down that line. With every change of leadership, as things evolved, there had to be a broader and broader consensus of government. And that broader and broader consensus of government, even though it still resided in the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and all of that other stuff, with every iteration, it then had to accommodate more and more of the population having information. And you could not hide, you could not say the revolution was going forward. You know, I know I went out and shot with members from the CIA that would take Russian emigres, come to the United States and take them to a supermarket. And if I've told you this before, I apologize. They would take them to a supermarket, and the Russian emigres would say, "This is put on. Nobody has this much food. There are nobody. This is all a show." And they would say, "Okay, let's get in the car." They take them to another supermarket. Then they take them to another one, and they take them to another one. And the people would break down and cry because they couldn't believe the plenty of this nation and how this was totally different from what they had been told about the United States and the way they were treated and all of the other aspects. So the lie can't be perpetuated forever. Eventually, the lie is found out.
I heard a story about a Russian who came to the United States, and he went to a grocery store with some Americans, and they wound up in the aisle, in the detergent aisle, okay? Liquid detergent for washing dishes. Yeah. And he looked up and down this big aisle, and there was all kinds of different colors, all kinds of different manufacturers, all kinds of different scents just to wash dishes. And he was just amazed. And he turned to the American he was with and said, "Why?" Well, he didn't understand. He just didn't.
Why do you need so many?
Yeah. Why do you need so many different ways to wash a dish? You know, well, you know, because we have a choice. That's why, and we have competition. Right. We have competition. You know, in the Wall Street Journal today was an interesting piece by Robert Bork Jr. And his father, Robert Bork, of course, you know.
Right. One of the greatest legal minds that ever lived in America.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. And Robert Bork, the senior, wrote a paper about antitrust that is still taught in college classrooms. Right. And he came down solidly on businesses getting bigger, more competition. He thought that was more competition. And I have utmost respect for Judge Bork. He should have been on the Supreme Court. I still can't believe that Ted Kennedy, of all people, had the audacity to lecture Robert Bork on morality. I mean, he looked hungover. The man's face was blotched from all the whiskey drank in life. And how many affairs did he have? And he's sitting there lecturing a man like Bork on a moral code. But I would have to disagree with Judge Bork a little bit, especially in the age of Amazon. I don't believe Judge Bork lived to see Amazon as it is today. Right now, Amazon is not just a book salesman. They sell groceries. They sell services. Oh, yeah. They sell services. And the competition that Amazon has is simply not keeping up. Amazon is too big. Should we look at breaking Amazon up, or what is your feeling on large companies taking so much market share? And I'll include Walmart in this.
Well, I think that the Walmart is and the big box stores are they're an issue unto themselves. I think that when you look at Amazon is essentially online buying.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of issues associated with that. I think, again, it's up to a matter of person's convenience or it's a person's choice how they do that. But you can order online from almost any store today and have it delivered. I ordered shoes online from a esoteric company that does barefoot shoes, and I know that sounds oxymoronic, but there are shoes that are built for your foot that are more natural. It's almost like a Birkenstock type thing. But I ordered those online, and then you have so Amazon in and of itself, operating in and of itself, I think is when you have companies operate like Amazon, you have a choice. You can buy online, you can buy almost any item there, or you can buy it from a company direct. That to me doesn't worry me nearly as much as the impact that stores like Costco and Walmart have on local economies. That COVID-19 was a boon to these box stores. They are the only ones that stayed open. They're the only ones that had the wherewithal to stay open. They're the ones that put the signs out and said, "Where's your mask?" They're the ones that said, "We're doing it for liability reasons." But what was happening? Every other store that was around the town square was closing. All of the mom and pop stores were closing. All of the restaurants were closing. All the independent grocery stores were closing. And who survived? Only the big ones. That is not competition. That is concentration of industry. And what that leads to then is a very dramatic increase in prices because the big companies control everything. And they then take a look at our meat packers. Only 4 companies control 85% of the market share, and 2 of those companies are owned outside of the United States. One of them is owned by the Communist Party of China. So then you go through all of these machinations here, and you end up with the idea that people need to be paying attention to this concentration of industry, because I think it's extremely detrimental to competition, because these big companies then are able to withstand. They pay the lobbyists. The lobbyists go out and make sure that the rules are there for the big companies. Little companies can't compete, so they dry up and go away. And so this is I think it's a real issue, and I wish Congress would pay closer attention to the antitrust aspects of these large companies and this concentration of industry. I really do.
Never in the history of the world was so much prosperity and individual wealth accumulated than in the 15 years after the Second World War in the United States of America. That's when we had shops lining main streets all over our state and our country.
Right.
And people's initiative and ambition and intelligence led them to success. With all these big monstrous companies, we lost Sam. Well, he'll come back. But let me finish my thought. These big monstrous companies don't care about Ford Dodge. They don't care about Gallery. They don't care about anything. Anyway, Sam is back with us. How are you, Sam?
Good. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was me or something happened here. I got dumped here a little.
Oh, well, we're going to have to take a break here in just a minute anyway. But I would like to say again that that we don't have a system that rewards an individual's desire for wealth accumulation, for owning their own store, their own property, their own business. We don't have that anymore. We have some of our most talented people going to work on internet services, and even for Walmart and Target and all these other big box stores. I don't know if that's capitalism, Sam.
I don't either. I think your concern is a valid one. I would say that I think that the one thing I think about is just about how successful, let's say that my wife and I, that we earn a certain amount of income, and the more successful we are, it seems like the less we have. And it's not because we spend more. It's because every time we turn around, we have to pay more taxes because we didn't qualify for the stimulus checks. We're not going to qualify for these children's tax credits. We still pay property tax for our schools and all of this other stuff, because every time we turn around, we got to pay more tax. And sometimes you look at this and it's so discouraging, because the harder you work, it seems like the more they take away from you. And that to me goes right to the heart of what you're talking about. It's discouraging for entrepreneurship.
Sam Clovis, we'll be back in just a little bit. Sam, give us about 7 or 8 minutes, will you?
I'll call you back in 8.
Thank you very much. It's 3:31. This is AM 1400 KVFT.
When the storm clouds build in central Iowa, we'll keep you informed with the Severe Weather Advisor on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFT.